Imagine being a young teenager and by some quirk of fate you slip back in time. There's no time machines, no fancy gadgets or fast cars. You just take a step in the wrong place and without any effort at all, you're living in a time before you were born. Suddenly it's 1940 and you're on a naval base in wartime England, and 10 minutes after being captured accused of being a spy, the Germans invade and take over the base at gunpoint. In this episode of the channel, we're going back to 1970 to take a look at children's TV serial Timeslip. Welcome to the channel. My name is Steve Hart. Now, Timeslip ran for 2 seasons and featured a total of 4 storylines that all linked together. The first was the wrong end of time. The series starred 18-year-old Cheryl Burfield, who had made her name as a model when she auditioned for the role of 13-year-old Liz, the cheek of the girl.
There's something peculiar about everything. You were here before, though, weren't you?
A long time ago.
Cheryl got the part and the producers raised the age of her character to 15. Spencer Banks played child boffin Simon Randall. He continued to work up until 2015. His last movie seems to have been the Amityville Playhouse. Apart from 2 episodes, the show was recorded in living colour. The 2 black and white episodes were recorded due to a colour strike by the people who knew how to operate the colour gear of the day. Today, all but one of the episodes survive as black and white versions. As with too many other shows of the day, the colour tapes were wiped to record other programmes, unless of course you know differently. In setting the scene for this time travel adventure, ITV's then science correspondent Peter Fairley opens episode 1 with a preamble about time travel and how science fiction very often becomes science fact.
Have you ever had the feeling that you've been here before, and yet everyone tells you that you can't have been? That's what this new series, Timeslip, is all about.
I wonder if he knew something we don't. Even now it seems odd to have a senior science reporter introducing a work of fiction, and he's so serious too. In the first episode we see a teenager staggering along a road toward the boundary of an abandoned naval base. The fence is long gone, but the posts remain. Her name's Sarah, and we don't know why she's there, and she seems to be in some kind of trance. It's all very odd. Watched by a man lying on a nearby grass embankment drinking beer from a bottle, the very idea. We see the girl disappear as she steps across the boundary of the abandoned military base. It would have been a great visual effect back in the day. Next, 2 teenagers, friends Simon and Liz, inadvertently follow her and disappear in the same spot. We find they've all slipped back 30 years to 1940, when the base was in full swing doing its part for the war effort. From my watching of the show, there were no visual clues it's a naval base at all, mainly because it wasn't. Now, while scientists are seen beavering away developing laser technology, German mariners sneak in and the children are held in a room accused of spying. Keeping guard over the children is young Frank Skinner. Liz recognises him as the man who'll become her father, and she's worried he'll be killed by the Germans and then she wouldn't be born.
Simon, he said his name was Frank Skinner. But that's my father's name.
Meanwhile, in the present day, in the same location at the village down the road, Frank is drawn into a conversation by Charles Trainer, played by Dennis Quilley. Charles Trainer happened to be the commander at the naval base back in the day.
When do you hope to get away, Mr. Skinner?
Oh, tomorrow, with any luck.
You, of course, would have preferred simply to stay put.
You seem to take a lot of interest in other people, Mr. Trainer.
But you were here during the war, weren't you, at the old naval station?
The last time I was here, during the war,
Yes.
something happened, but I can't remember a blind thing about it.
It seems Charles has arrived in the village knowing what was to take place. After all, he saw the kids when they time travelled back to 1940, and having worked out when the kids came from, it was just a matter of time before he had to return to the village to see what happened literally from the other side of the fence. Now, because adult Frank has amnesia from his time on the base, he doesn't recognise his daughter as the girl he kept guard on 30 years earlier. And while former naval base colleagues Charles and Frank chew the modern day fat, we discover Liz's mother can communicate telepathically with her daughter when she's in 1940. Don't worry, it's not as confusing if you actually watch the show, but if you had to draw this programme, this is what it would look like. Back in 1940, Liz and Simon recognised Charles Traynor as the man they saw at the local pub, and he's astonished the children know his name. He pegs them as spies. It seems the leader of the German team has heard all about the laser and wants it to bring peace to Europe.
You are conducting experiments with light. New experiments that you will kindly explain to me now, unless you would prefer I explain them to you.
Oh, you really think you've got that far?
During the drama, Liz is shot by a trigger-happy German officer. There's blood, but no wound.
I thought there'd be a great hole or something.
Well, there isn't.
No.
The theory being, we hear in the show, that from Liz's point of view, it's all an hallucination, and so she can't be harmed. She's not there. Well, she's there, but not there. She can be hurt, but not killed. I assume because she hasn't been born yet. The games they play when it comes to time travel stories. Having helped Sarah return to the present day, Liz returns to 1940 to help Simon, who would have been head prefect at my school, and eventually they escape by stepping back through the time barrier. But it's not all happily ever after. They end up in Antarctica, and the year is 1990. They've travelled to a different location and a different time, and here they were, hoping for some home comforts and a hot cup of cocoa. Thankfully, they're rescued from bone-chilling temperatures and taken to a research base, and here they find scientists are developing a drug to help people live forever. Liz meets her mother and an older version of herself, played by Mary Preston.
But somehow we've got to find a way of dealing with it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mummy. It's just... Will somebody tell me, why did he have to be frozen in the ice?
She's become an emotionless scientist and is carrying out experiments on human volunteers.
We've got to get out of here.
Simon, how can we?
I don't know, but we've got to. We've somehow slipped into the future. No, we're not going to stick around to be part of some new experiment or other. They think we're a couple of guinea pigs.
But the experiments keep going wrong.
Why all these things have gone wrong? Haven't either of you any idea?
The director says it's human error.
Oh, come on,
Beth,
Larry.
listen to me.
Suspicion falls on the base computer. I mean, they can be cantankerous at times. It all comes to a head when the computer breaks down and the research station starts freezing over. Don't worry, Simon and Liz escape through the time barrier just in the nick of time and return to 1970. Warned by Charles Traynor not to use the time barrier again, they ignore him.
Simon?
What to follow me through for?
Well, I heard you yell.
Is it my fault if the time barrier comes out in the middle of a creek or something?
Well, I didn't know what was wrong.
There's nothing wrong. We just wet through, that's all.
They're in England and it's as hot as a pot. The story is called The Year of the Burn-Up. And again, Liz encounters her future self, again played by Mary Preston. And this time she's a hippie who doesn't like technology.
What year is it, Beth?
1990.
1990. Where are we?
England. Where else?
But it's jungle out there.
Darkest Buckinghamshire.
You're joking.
You'll find things have changed a bit since your time. England's a hot country now.
Simon also meets his future self and is played by David Graham. Future Simon and Old Man Traynor are at odds, battling each other to control mankind. Can't they leave us alone? They've been messing with the weather. Who would do such a thing? And it's all gone wrong. And the planet is frying. Can young Liz and Simon return to 1970 to prevent this happening? You bet they can.
We've got to take Liz home.
Simon!
Come on, Liz, we must find it now.
You won't find your destiny there, boy.
Time barrier's here. Too late, Trainer. We're going home.
They can't harm me. I'm only what your future could be. It's up to you and Simon to see that none of this happens.
Come on, Liz, hurry.
They leave their older selves behind, enter the time barrier and pop up in 1965 for the final story, The Day of the Clone.
We've come home.
Home? What are you talking about?
Well, this is my home where I live.
Here, all the previous stories come together in a convoluted sequence of events, and we find that the Charles Traynor the kids have been associating with in 1970 is nothing more than a clone.
I see that you never work in scientific research again. You hear me, Fraser? It's the end of the line for you.
Devereaux wanted the future for himself, but he could never have it. That's why he created you.
Created?
The real Charles Trainer has been locked up in a cupboard, but don't worry, he gets out before the closing credits roll.
Darling. You don't exist!
Well, you've got to see it to understand it. And you can on YouTube of all places, where numerous people have uploaded the entire canon for your visual delight. Music for the show came from the DeWolf Music Library, and to my mind the theme tune sounds more Indiana Jones Egyptian adventure than time travel, to be honest, but what does time travel music sound like? Again, it's a crying shame the bozos at ITV wiped the colour versions, and while the ones we do have could be coloured, it doesn't look as though that will happen anytime soon. VHS versions of the series were first released in 1992, the DVD came out in 2004, and a subsequent set was released again in 2016. In 2009, a documentary, Timeslip Behind the Barrier, was released, and in 2020, Big Finish Productions released a new series of Timeslip audio plays featuring original cast members Spencer Banks and Cheryl Burfield. The first box set was released on Timeslip's 50th anniversary, which was May 2020. A second set was released in June 2020. My name is Steve Hart and you've been watching the channel. Do please comment, like, subscribe and share. It's the only language YouTube understands. It costs nothing and it really does help. Just to click a like button, it would be really helpful. Until next time, have fun. Oh, and if you'd like jazz, do check out my online jazz radio show. There's a link below. Okay, until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.